Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello everyone. It's Brian Sachs, and I am really thrilled for this session too. I hope you have gone back to session one, really started to implement and get your arms around everything that we shared. That's, session one and session two, and even the future sessions, you're really going to want to dig in and start implementing those things because nothing's going to happen without implementation. So before I dig in here, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Can you just type in yes if you can hear me? So can anybody hear me? Okay, beautiful. So let's get going because we have a lot of ground to cover. So in session one, what you learned were all of the ways to get what you want. You learned 22 triggers that allow you to manipulate people. And I'm saying manipulate and persuade in really the best way I can possibly say it, because they're not bad words, they're good words. Everything we do in life requires persuasion, manipulation, and getting your way, but more importantly, having others feel good about it. So in this session, in session two, we're going to talk about how clients make buying decisions and how you can look at their subtle clues to learn how to sell to them. You know, what's interesting is if you listen and you know the cues that I'm going to share with you, you really have almost, as I say here, an unfair edge, an unfair advantage. And it's the problem that most originators don't even know that they have. It's an issue that people just don't realize. So again, in this module, you're going to want to go back. You're going to want to keep reviewing and start implementing, and you will start seeing massive changes in your production, in your life, all for the better. And I know those are pretty tall promises, but let's dig in. What do you say? Here we go. So how do clients make buying decisions, and how do you get them to choose you? And you're going to learn, color matters, what you say matters, the words you use matter. So, everyone is sharing with you ways to, go on Zillow, and, I'm sharing with you how to be an expert, a boomerang buyer expert, or how to turn renters into loans, and how to have all these persuasion and manipulation techniques. But if you don't know how buyers choose you, and you can't then learn these subliminal ways of influencing them, you're at a disadvantage. I want to make sure that you have the advantage. So, the brain is a very funny thing. And I'm not going to go into all the neuroscience, but I have really been studying persuasion, neuroscience, and manipulation, influence for 20 some years. And when I say studying, I mean really studying in great detail and great depth. And it's such an exciting field because all the time there are new neurological and x-ray techniques that are coming about, MRIs that actually show you how the brain functions. But to make it really simple, the brain looks for clues so that it can start making automatic decisions. It's what you and I would call our gut feelings, right? But we are programmed, to make these decisions on a very subconscious level. And if you can start learning how to influence your clients and your realtors and your family and your friends on this subconscious level, you really will start rocking. I mean, things will really start changing. So um, I want to show you how to identify how your buyers prefer to buy so that you can sell to them in that format. I want you to learn how to read their nonverbal responses, their cues, so to speak. We're going to talk about how to make them like you, because remember, they have to know, like, and trust you. Write that down. They have to know, like, and trust you for this to make sense. And then I want you to set up your office, your presentations, your offers, everything you do. I want you to set it up for your success. So what are the real subliminal reasons buyers choose you instead of your competition? Or vice versa, by the way, choose your competition over you. So there are really three groups of people. There are visuals, there are auditories, and there are kinesthetics. And then there are some that are a mixture of both, but everyone favors one of these three areas. Everyone, okay? So if you can see how John Smith thinks through John Smith's eyes, you will be able to sell John Smith what John Smith buys. And that's from Kerry Johnson in a book called Subliminal Selling Skills. To me, this is a masterpiece. It's a little dated, but it's no less true today than it was when he wrote it. And I apply this every single day, and it's amazing. So visuals, they need to see it, okay? They can't just hear it, they can't just feel it, they need to actually see it in front of them. And I hadn't planned on mentioning this to you, but there is a resource that I use called join.me. So it's join.me. And it's far better than Skype. It's far better than GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar. And the reason for that is it's very, very simple. You send your client a link, they can actually see your screen without downloading anything. So, if you want to go over figures, you want to go over an LE, you want to go over an application, you want to go over a guideline, you want to go over an appraisal, whatever it is, you want to try that. It's called join.me. The other thing that I shared with you in my last session, in session 1, I shared with you BombBomb. And I did an interesting experiment actually today. I sent 5 emails to 5 different agents I haven't done a deal with in some time. And what I said in there was, hi, it's Brian. Hope your summer's going great. Really miss you. Hope we can work together soon. Do you know I got 3 immediate responses from that? It was a video email using BombBomb. Each one took me less than a minute to make. So this is visual. Some people need to see you. Out of sight, out of mind. Visuals are about 35% of the population. And then there are kinesthetics. They buy because of their gut. They are 40% of the population, okay? And by far, they're the most. And then you have auditories. It's not what you say to them, but how you say it. They care about voice inflection. They care about your tone. They care about your pitch. These people will buy over the phone. They're about 25% of the population. So what's interesting is I always like to meet with people in person, okay? But an auditory, I could actually sell over the phone and do their application. So keep that in mind. We got 3 big headings. If you want to go back and find out what your primary mode is, I've included a test here, okay? And you just put in 0 for a no answer, 1 for a yes answer, and at the end, you can total this up and see how you scored, whether you are a kinesthetic, a visual, or an auditory. But see, once you know the way people will buy, and I'm going to show you, once you know the way people buy, the words you use, what you look like, how things sound, how they feel, very, very important. They're going to give you, your buyers will give you these clues, and I'm going to share them with you. So a visual, use visual words. Use lots of visual guides, like I will give them a brochure, a printout, a graph. But you got to be very careful with visuals not to overwhelm them. If you overwhelm them, you lose the sale. Visuals, because they're visual, obviously, color is very important when you're working with visuals. The best colors are gray, blue, and like a hunter green, money. And when I'm saying colors, I mean the color of your website, the color of your brochures, the color of your cards. You'll notice that this presentation is in a light blue, right? That's intentional. The worst colors to use with them are black, purple, yellow, and red. And folks, if you don't think this has a big impact, I mean, you're really sadly mistaken. This is critical, critical stuff. A visuals vocabulary. So they are going to tell you exactly how to sell to them. They will say things like, that's pretty clear so far. It looks good. So you go over to LE and you say, well, any thoughts? And they'll say, well, that looks good. Or I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Let me give you my views about that. That's a great idea. Can you show it to me? So they're visuals, okay? And with visuals, you will see the eye movement. Pay attention to people's eyes, by the way. And I'm going to stop here for a second because I don't want to forget to share this with you. If you want to have someone instantly like you, and even in your photographs, and I know Denise who's on here, I've seen her photographs where her head is kind of tilted to the side. When you tilt your head to the right side or the left side, doesn't really matter what side you tilt it to, but when you're first meeting someone, tilt your head from side to side. It's a sign of liking and vulnerability because you know what you got on either side, right? Your carotid artery. And on a subconscious level, you are going to influence people. If your head is slightly tilted to one side or the other, you look friendlier. So your photos should be that way for your website, for your business cards, for your brochures. Your eyebrows could be up a little bit, which again is a subtle influencer, subliminal to the other person's brain that you're inviting, okay? That you're not a foe, you're a friend. So the visual, when their eyes are moving up to the right side in the top, it means that they're thinking, okay? They're trying to see what you're saying. So you got to use those visual expressive words, paint the picture for them. Eyes move up to the left. They're thinking about past information and trying to create that visual in their brain. Or they're looking past you. It means that they're trying to create the picture of what you just said, okay? Doesn't mean they're not paying attention. It just means they're really trying to see it in their brain. So you know where you are with these folks by looking at their eyes because they are visual. So your first step, determine what they are, visual, kinesthetic, auditory, and then again, we're going to try to sell to them. You got to make great eye contact. They are, again, affected by color. They're very, very good with directions. So if you want to really get ahead with the visuals, use visual predicates. We talked about that. Watch what you wear and let them see your ideas and use gestures. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? How's that look to you? Okay. By the way, here's a bonus tip for you. Red will increase appetite and blue will reduce it. The way you dress is very important, especially with a visual, and it's always best and safe to go with a blue or gray suit and, jacket, dress, and a solid tie if you're a gentleman. So let's talk about auditories, okay? Auditories will move their eyes to the side left when thinking about past information. They'll look straight and to the right when they're thinking about past information. If they aren't just thinking, they're actually hearing. You can force them to think and hear. So let's look at that, okay? So the tone you use, the sounds you make. These people are generally going to be musicians, teachers, salespeople, radio announcers, something in the hearing end. So be very, very careful when you're looking at their eye movements so that you can see what they're doing. And auditory will often put their hand up to their face as if they're trying to hear you better. Visuals will speak quickly. Auditories will speak very, very slow and deliberate because sound is so important to them. So when given information, auditories will look at the words at the top, they'll scan the left side, and then wait for you to give them more information before they continue reading. So you always want to wait about 10 seconds before you explain it all to them. So I hope this is making sense. I hope I'm not going too fast. But again, I want you to come back. This works when you practice it, when you really implement it, when you make it part of what you do. And this is not foo-foo, hoo-hoo stuff. This is how the brain works. And this is proven over and over and over again. An example of an auditory. What will your spouse say when you tell him or her how much you were able to save? The prospect's going to start looking side right and start in their head hearing their spouse's voice. When an auditory looks down and left, they're trying to compare what you're saying to what they've heard before. And I'm telling you, folks, this is absolutely critical. Watch the eyes. You know, they say the eyes are the key to the soul. Watch the eyes, because watch the words, listen to the words, watch the eyes. It'll tell you exactly how to sell them. So here are words you're going to hear from an auditory. Don't take that tone with me. All I ever get from you a lot is static. Yes, I hear what you're saying. Oh, that rings a bell. Oh, sounds good to me. Did you hear the one about they'll make a joke. Can you tell me more about it? Can you tell me more about it? Or talk to me more about this. So when you hear things like that, you're talking to an auditory and you need to sell to them like an auditory. So a big idea. Music that you're playing matters. Okay, if you have music on hold or you're listening to your MP4s or MP3s, the slower the music encourages sales and productivity much more so than fast music. And what I find absolutely ridiculous is calling a company, listening to the on hold music that is from a radio station that has an ad on there from Quicken Loans or some other local mortgage company. So, be very sensitive to that. A better idea for you if you have on hold, is why don't you run a loop of your own testimonials? Or if you have a radio show, a rebroadcast of a radio show, or just you talking about you and your programs, or something interesting while they're on hold. Don't let them listen to a radio. First of all, don't let them listen to fast music. It changes the mood of an auditory. Okay? So these people, again, are able to be sold on the phone. If the prospect says to you, can you please explain this to me? There's a very, very good chance, if they're using those words, which we've all heard, that they are in fact auditories. Okay? So they're trying to sound good. They like concerts. They talk to themselves in their mind. They hear. Remember we said they're trying to hear what their spouse had to say. So you want to use auditory predicates, which we've talked about. Listen, okay? Explain the illustrations. They need to hear it. So let's talk about our third group, okay? Our third group are going to be kinesthetics, and they make decisions based on how they feel. They go with what they call their gut. I say this all the time. Hey, I got a good gut feeling about this. Well, I'm a kinesthetic. That's how you sell to me, okay? Yes, I like visuals. Yes, I need to hear it, but I lean. Remember, we all have all three of these components. Every human does, but we favor one of them when we make a decision. So they go with their gut feeling. When they feel positive, they look down and to the right. They will either like or dislike you pretty much instantly, okay? Kinesthetic, they make frequent pauses in their conversation. They love to touch. So if any of you know me, I'm a big hugger. I'm a big handshaker. It's important to make them feel good quickly. And you can do it as subtly as just, a really firm handshake, a tap on the shoulder. Ask them, what do you feel? See the word feel? Because they feel. What do you feel you would like to accomplish at our meeting? Or what do you feel is most important to you when choosing a lender? or what do you feel a comfortable payment would be? See, we're going to learn in a minute more about mirroring and so forth, but use the words. The words are critical, okay? They're generally going to be athletes, carpenters, cooks, ministers, sculptors, psychologists. Hey, you want to touch base? That's a kinesthetic word. How's it feel? What's your impression? Okay. Big words. So if you find them reaching out to grab a document like a pre-qual form or a brochure, you put it on the table, they are most likely kinesthetics. And you want to learn to use, and I'm sure all of you have heard of this, the feel, felt, found technique. I'll go into it just in case you haven't, but those are the words you want to use. They're feeling hot or cold about you, frequent pauses in the conversation. They like to touch things, okay? So give them things to touch, have a brochure, have forms. You know, I talked about that pre-qual form in session one. I told you about lots of forms actually in session one. Let them touch them, let them feel them, okay? And, you know, here's what so as an example with a kinesthetic, I mean, this is a problem we all have, right? Your price is too high. So you can't, once you've identified how someone is going to buy, you have to come back to them based on how they buy and what they are. So does this make sense? Give me a yes or no in the box. So I need to know you guys are with me and that this is really powerful stuff. So tell me you understand it and you're with me. Okay. So good. All right. So everybody's with me. This really, I hope you see how powerful this is and what a difference it can make. I would even encourage you to print out this slide and tape it to your laptop or your printer. For kinesthetics, when they're questioning price, you got to say, hey, I understand how you feel. And I've actually dealt with other clients that felt the same way until they found, and you can ... yourself. For auditories, you might say, Shirley, I hear what you're saying. Other clients have told me the same thing until they found that, the other lender was charging them an origination fee when they didn't need to, or that, they didn't know rates changed every day. For visuals, I see what you're saying. Other clients of mine had the same view until they found. Folks, this is dangerous stuff. This is really, this is game-changing stuff. So print this slide out once you know. See, the big lesson here is people are always asking me, what's the best way to do this? What's the number one way to do that? I hope what this is showing you is that you need to use as many different types of media as possible to gain the maximum return on your marketing dollars. You need a brochure, you need a website, you need articles, you need books, you need audios, videos, personal meetings. You have to sell to people the way they prefer to buy. So you must have all the tools in your tool belt to figure out and use once you have found out how someone buys, so they can see it, touch it, feel it, hear it, experience it, okay? So what do all of these simple nonverbal cues really mean? When the lips look like this, it's a simple smile, an upper smile, and a broad smile. Facial expressions can show shock. They can show surprise. They, if a person's mouth is wide open and the muscles are relaxed, it's because they're shocked and their chin drops. Remember what I told you a little while earlier. Tilt your head from one side. Just be on one side, never looking straight at a person, and they will like you more. You're either, see, the brain is going to determine instantly, like a dog does, whether you are a friend or a foe. Raised eyebrows, nice smile, okay? Head tilted shows that you are welcoming. Here's somebody sitting back. Well, they clearly have a feeling of superiority. That's what they're showing you. Sometimes they don't even realize it, but that's the verbal cues we give off, okay? You want to, and we're going to go deep into this, into some really heavy, deep psychological stuff very shortly here. But, you know, how people are standing in their hand gestures and their motions. Look at the verbal cues people are giving you. This lady, bored to death, okay? This lady, pretty standoffish. They're having a very nice conversation here, okay? So let's jump into it a little bit, okay? A lady with her hand on her chin or a gentleman with a head on a chin, it's usually a sign of boredom, okay? This person, it would see how her head's tilted right here? And again, I'm not trying to be sexist. It goes for male or female, but she is very inviting. She is bored. She is inviting. This lady, very, very defensive and standoffish. Look, her legs are crossed. Her arms are crossed. She's almost in a cradling type position. Okay. And this person right here is actually, you know, could be interesting. Everything's under control, pretty confident. You got to look at these nonverbal. We all give off, every human gives off nonverbal clues. And if you learn to read those nonverbal clues, again, you've got the upper hand. So step 3 here in this 4-step process is making them like you. So we found out how they buy, right? Now we got to make them like us. And if they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you. It's just that simple. So you've got to learn to be inviting. You've got to learn to build active rapport quickly. One way to do it, and I'm going to say this very bluntly, is shut up. We all have including me, we all have a desire to just continue talking and blabbing and blah, 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 blah. Shut up and let them talk. Be an active listener. People love to talk about themselves. So get them talking about themselves. Ask them those open-ended questions. Make sure you're listening 80% of the time and talking 20% of the time, because the more people talk about themselves, the more they are building rapport with you. You have to be genuine. And look, if you're in our industry and you don't really care about people, you're in the wrong industry. I mean, we're dealing with the largest transaction of people's lives. So you got to be sincere. Use great eye contact. Don't start formulating your response because you're not listening. And don't ever interrupt them. Let them talk. Keep them talking. Let them, you know, they'll tell you what they want and they'll tell you exactly how to sell to them. This is also a slide I want you to print out, okay? And we talked about some of this before in session 1. These are the 12 most persuasive words in the English language. Discover, easy, guaranteed, health, love, money, new, proven, results, safety, save. The most important word is you, not I. The most important word is you. And people love to hear their name. So the more you can use someone's name when you're speaking back to them, the better, because it creates instant trust and instant bonding. So here's a technique called mirroring your prospect. If you and I are sitting down and we're having a conversation and I mirror your rate of speech, you talk softly, I'm going to talk softly. But if you start talking loudly, I'm going to start talking loudly too. And the tone and the pitch and the same words. And if you're sitting across from me and, you know, you've got your head tilted, I'm going to tilt mine. If you've got your arms crossed or fingers interlocked, I'm going to do the same thing. Very subtly, not annoying. It's called mirroring. And why do you think mirroring works? Mirroring works because of familiarity and similarity. Those are 2 of the persuasion techniques we learned. The more someone can see that you are like them and you are familiar and you are similar, the more they will instantly bond and like you. You can fold your legs when they fold their hands. You must be very, very subtle about this so that it's not obvious. If they see you mimicking them, you know, it's going to absolutely blow up in your face. But I mean, do it tonight. Just do it for fun, okay? Mirror a prospect or even a stranger you see, and then you take over. When you take over, if they have their arms crossed, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to sit across from someone, and I'm going to mirror them. I'm going to look at them and I'm going to mirror them, okay? And then I'm going to lead. I'm going to take over. If their arms are crossed, I'm going to uncross my arms and legs, and or if my hand is in my face, I'm going to take my hand away. And if the person follows, then you have built rapport. That's called leading. You can also lead with voice and verbal cues. It's like my wife, when she goes to New York, she's a New Yorker. When she gets back there, she starts speaking funny. She speaks like a New Yorker. But try it out tonight just for kicks. Don't tell anybody, okay? But mirror someone. And then once you feel you've built that rapport, just do the opposite. If the legs were crossed, uncross them. If your head was in your hand, move your head. And if they follow you, you've built rapport and you now control them subconsciously. It's a pretty big idea. So use anchoring words. These words plant hidden, almost hypnotic commands in your prospect's subconscious, and that's where they're making their buying decisions, okay, in their subconscious. So use the words like purchase, receive, possess, buy, get, gain, own. Imagine what it will feel like, Denise, when you own your home. You've made that purchase and you start receiving all the benefits and gaining all the tax write-offs. See how I've used all those words in that one sentence? And that's real world. So you can also future pace with them. Find out what their desired outcome is. I always say nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, gee, I want a mortgage today. They want a home. They want to stop paying rent. They want not a place where they can retire and build equity and build wealth and raise a family and all those things. Nobody wants a mortgage. So, Lynn, what does the future look like? What would you consider a great outcome from this transaction? And it's also okay to let them know that you're going to make a living. Don't hide it, Well, my job, this is how I earn my living. And obviously, I want to make sure that I have a list of happy clients just like you who are going to refer business to me, Lynn. See what I just did? I planted a command in your brain. You're going to refer business to me, Lynn, right? See? So, objections. Most originators hate objections. They hate difficult clients who have lots of questions and pose a bunch of questions. But the truth is, you should love those objections, whether it's coming from a realtor or a referral source you're trying to do business with, or whether it's coming from a client. Love them, okay? Because they're telling you that they're interested. If they weren't objecting, then they have no interest. So the fact that they are objecting is good news, not bad news. So 3 steps to handling these objections: acknowledge it, uncover what the real issue is, and then try to resolve it subliminally with some of the mirroring and anchoring techniques I'm teaching you. It's often more important to know when to close than it is to know how to close. I've been telling you a lot of how to, but the when is really important too. So when someone's giving you a head nod and a smile, they're ready. When their pupils get dilated, they're ready. If they're rubbing their chin or head scratching or tense lips, pursed up in the corners, they're not ready. But if they grab the papers to their side or leave them there or push them aside, if they're grabbing them, okay, and pulling them to their side, they're ready, okay? Close them. If they leave them there, not so ready. If they push them aside, there's clearly an objection. So what I'm trying to impress upon you is don't just listen, watch. Watch for the cues, because people can't help themselves. They don't realize that they are really easily read like a book. Now, I want to go into some more advanced techniques. We've talked about the 3 types and the ways to sell them, and the verbal cues and the visual cues, and how to build that instant trust. But I'm going to go even deeper, as I promised you, and let's talk about some even more subtle things, okay? You want to set up your office and your presentations and your offers for success. I actually have an office that I work in, and I have an office for show. The office that I work in is an absolute nightmare disaster with paper all over the place and books and, you know, I mean, it looks like a hurricane came through, but I know actually where everything is. I'm like anal organized. Um, but there's another office that's just for show. My conference room, neat, clean, full of frame articles, nice furniture, awards. See, whether you believe it or not, what you look like, sound like, and appear like matters, okay? Wearing a Mont Blanc pen, I have a Mont Blanc here for meeting with people. I don't think I've ever used it to write a word, okay? But I have it. I write with a Bic because I like my Bic pen, but I keep in my pocket a Mont Blanc. The other thing I do, which is very counterintuitive, and I want you to try it because it sends a very important message. People have to wait for me, always about 10 minutes, and while they're waiting, they are hearing that I'm working with someone else and almost done. I covered this in Persuasion in session 1. They're forced to see my articles. They're forced to see I wrote a book. They're forced to see other things that I do. And I'm very generous, but I don't ever accept gifts, ever, ever, because I want all the chips on my side of the table and I never want to be obligated. This is what we talked about in session 1 that's called reciprocity, right? So you want to always position yourself and you always want people to think you are an expert because most people prefer to follow a strong leader. They don't like wishy-washy, shaky, especially when they're dealing with a large financial transaction. You know, my mentor, Dan Kennedy, always says, everyone's walking around with their umbilical cord in their hand looking for someone to plug it into. You need to show them you're in command. You are the boss. You need to act that way, you need to sound that way, and you need to look that way. And even something as simple as the location of the desks matter. They show power, okay? And, you know, here you go. These corner offices, you know, this is the line of power, okay? Right here. So you have corner offices, you have middle offices, and this is the line of power where they meet. Very, very important. You know, when you're dealing with a client, they know you're in business to make money, so why hide that? Don't. It kills rapport. Come right out. Hey, it's how I'll make my living, you know. If they've already gotten a mortgage before, and this is really important, especially if you're in a big refi boom, ask them, how did you determine or how will you determine which lender you're going to choose? And if you just refinance or you just bought, well, were you happy with that decision? This is going to tell you everything you need to know. It's exactly how they bought before, and they're going to tell you exactly what their fears and concerns are if you only shut up. And I know that's harsh, but I'm a blabber. You see, I'm passionate. I love to talk. Critical that you are listening, okay? If you listen, people will give you the keys to their kingdom. They'll tell you what their fears and concerns are, and now all you have to do is address them. It's a layup, okay? Corner offices show power. The closer you are to the middle in terms of the office, the less powerful you are. The middle of the row is less powerful than the end. Don't think this is insignificant. This is huge, okay? This really is huge. It's these subtle issues that make all the difference in the world. If you are the center of power, make sure all of the employees' desks face your office. Don't think that this is ridiculous. It really, truly matters, okay? Power corner, okay? You want the world, this is going to sound sickening to some of you, but it is true. You want the entire world revolving around you, and you want people to see that, okay? Color matters. Color matters in your office. Color matters in your clothing. Color matters on your website. Color matters. Blue is a strong color. Notice the color. Yellow is a weak color. Beige or tan, too neutral. Red, frightening. Brown and black, I don't know why anybody would use it, but those are sad and depressed colors. Green is peaceful, and it's the color of money, the one I like actually the most. White symbolizes freedom and openness. Color matters. All of these are subtle clues. So the best color for you for a conference room is blue with white, maybe even a little tinge of red or green. Where you stand at a party or gathering determines your power, okay? Same thing here in this diagram, okay? You want everyone surrounding you. You have to, and here's something else, I'm going off a little bit on a tangent. You have to accept all bad news calmly. You don't ever want to gossip unless you're using it intentionally to like sort of soften a beachhead. Where you sit at a meeting matters. If it's you, a client, and a realtor, or just you and a realtor, or you and a builder, where you sit matters. Better, and this is going to sound really crazy, but I'm telling you it works, better if you could be slightly elevated from the group, okay? When I have my seminars, I'm always on a stage. When I deliver presentations, I'm always on a little platform. When I'm sitting talking to a realtor, believe it or not, I always want to make sure that my chair is higher than theirs. In my office, I'm looking at it right now, I purposely have my desk chair, which goes up and down, and they have chairs that are flat and don't move and are always going to be below desk level. So when they're sitting in it, I'm always higher. It's a psychological but powerful and important signal. The strongest power position, of course, is at 12 o'clock, and the least is at 11 o'clock. When you're negotiating, and this is so important, I always say this to everybody I work with, when you're negotiating, it doesn't matter, and all we do all day is negotiate, right? We're talking to agents, we're talking to clients, we're talking to builders. The first person who talks loses. Answer the price question with another question until they reveal what they are actually looking for, because you know as well as I do, it's not always about price. It usually isn't about price, okay? So, people go, hey, what's your rate today? Well, a dumb loan officer is going to say, oh, rates are 3.5. Well, hey, Shirley, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for, or what are your goals? And shut up, because they'll tell you if they're an audio, a visual, or a kinesthetic. They'll tell you what their concerns are. They'll tell you what their fears are. And I never, ever answer that question. I always answer the what's your rate with another question. So very, very important. Your goal, make yourself indispensable. You always have to control the information and the flow of the information and make them need you and only you. I always tell my agents, hey, you want to, the easiest way to get your buyer qualified? Call me. Don't even try to do it on your own, because your job is to sell them the home. My job is to get them a mortgage. Whether, they have credit challenges or they have enough money, there's no possible way you can know all the programs, but I do, okay? So you can count on me. What am I trying to do there? I'm trying to make myself indispensable. Call me. Be helpless. Call me all the time. Call me for any question. You also want to be cautious of employees who are trying to make themselves indispensable. So you want to be indispensable, but you don't want your employees to feel that way. Just because they're working hard doesn't mean they're good at their job or efficient. Maybe they suck at their job, which is why they're working twice as hard. I had a processor years ago named Jennifer, and it was a big refi boom, and her desk literally looked like a foxhole, with sandbags, except they were loan files. And, it was big paper days back then. And, she thought she was indispensable. And she said to me, she really literally tried to do whatever she felt like doing. And, she thought she had me by the gonads, let's call it, okay? And even though I was so busy, I said to her, I can't tolerate this. And if you do it again, I'm going to fire you. And she said, well, yeah, right. You're going to fire me. You got 48 loans in the pipeline. You're going to fire me. Ha, ha, ha. And I said, you know what? Let's not wait. Get the hell out of here. And she couldn't believe it. And I got all the loans closed. But you want to be indispensable, but you never want your staff to feel like they are indispensable. Make sure you tell everyone how wonderful you are. Listen to that again, because so few of us do that. I tell my agents all the time, hey, that was a really tough loan. I am so glad that you gave it to me instead of another loan officer, because obviously I had the depth and experience to get it through. I said to an agent the other day, I said, this loan ain't for a loan officer on training wheels. And she laughed. She goes, yeah, I know. I'm so glad I gave it to you. And only you could get it done. I want them to hear that. I'm not saying it in an arrogant way. So, most of you are taught for religious or personal reasons not to toot your own horn. Bullcrap. Toot your horn. Toot it all the time, but toot it in a professional way. Okay? So make sure you tell everyone I wouldn't go around saying, oh, I'm the best, I'm terrific. But I would tell them, this is a really challenging loan. And, I'm really thrilled that I was able to get it through. And I put a lot of effort into this. Okay? That creates indebtedness to you. And that's what you want. When you're doing someone a favor, make sure they know you're doing them a favor. Don't be obnoxious. Just remind them, hey, Shirley, I'm really happy I was able to accommodate that request. We're not usually able to do that, but you're very important to me. And so I just want to make sure that that, we're happy to get it done for you. So again, you don't have to be obnoxious. People are more likely, and here's a big idea, okay? When should you even return phone calls? I mean, how many loan officers do you think know this? People are more likely to make a decision in the morning before lunch than in the afternoon or evening when they're running out of energy, okay? So another thing for those of you that are company owners, make sure you are firing quickly and hiring slowly. I just had the privilege of firing someone. I say it's a privilege because it is. And, when you fire someone, the rest of the inmates go back to the asylum, or the rest of the prisoners go back to their cell. So make sure you're firing quickly and hire slowly, even in busy times. No one is indispensable. So I hope you got 2 good ideas from that. The worst number in any business is number 1, like my processor Jennifer was. She thought she had total control. So cross-train everybody in your office. Never, ever allow someone you're working with or want to work with to take you to lunch, because that will create indebtedness. You indebted to them. I want them to be indebted to you. So you should also protect yourself from phone calls, faxes, emails. It's okay for you to become unavailable. And if you think you have to return a call right away, you're wrong. Get off of that, okay? Nobody's going to die because you didn't call them back in 10 minutes. And if they go somewhere else, you never really had them to begin with. You got to work on other things, other ways of binding them to you. My point to you is nobody gets to speak to me. They have to schedule appointments, okay? It's a position of power, but what it also does is it infers expertise and status, okay? I just changed my email at work to say I will be in a loan application from 6 to 8 p.m. Sorry. Okay, I'll be able to return calls from 8 to 9. What does it say? I'm busy. Why does it say that? Why is that important? People want to work with a winner, okay? If you pick up your phone the instant it rings, you're a loser. You think you're doing a good thing, but the signal it sends is I'm a loser. So I'm sitting by the phone waiting for you. Please, please, please give me a loan. The person, and this is really important, the person that receives the call has less power than the person placing the call. So make sure you only make calls. Let someone else or your answering machine answer it, or your voicemail. They have to go through processes and schedule a time to speak. So, people will say to me, well, I'll give you a call. Well, great. I could speak with you Monday from 1 to 1:20, or I have some time Tuesday morning from 8:30 to 9:30. What works better? It looks like the rest of my book is filled. Even if it's not, doesn't matter. You never want to lose the power, okay? People must not believe they can contact you at any time they like, or you're going to lose all power in that relationship. The less you do for yourself, the more perceived or real power they think you have. When you're speaking with someone or meeting with a realtor, always use a yellow legal pad. You can stare at the pad so the person on the other side can't read you, okay? When you're using something as simple as a conference room table, make sure it's not round. and that you're sitting at the head of the table. It's best if the chair is an executive chair. And as I said, it's best if the others are shorter, regular conference room chairs. It gives you the perception of power, but you don't want to make it too noticeable, just very, very subtle, okay? You want to place a clock facing the visitor so they understand that your time is valuable. And you can even take off your watch, if you wear one, that shows them that you're fully invested in the conversation. So, I mean, think about it. The ultimate sign of power, right, is how far people will inconvenience themselves for you. I never, ever meet a client anywhere other than my office or the realtor's office, and I make them take off work to do it during normal business hours. Remember we talked about commitment and consistency? My God, people will take off work to go to a dentist, to get their tags renewed, okay, to get their nails done, a haircut. I mean, is meeting with me less important? Meeting with you, a financial person, less important? So you make them, you don't go to their house, you don't meet them at Denny's. They either come to you, or even better if you can meet them at the realtor's office during normal business hours. The more powerful you are, the more valuable your time must appear to be. Hold something back. Always be a little bit mysterious. Make sure people never think they really know you or how you will react. People that know me know I can be extremely volatile, okay? When you're predictable, you're not needed anymore. So don't confuse doing this with always doing what you say and being honest, okay? I'm always honest to a fault, and I always do what I say I'm going to do, but I'll mix it up. I even mix it up in my messaging. So powerful people take risks. Powerful people aren't dictated by other people's time constraints or issues. Powerful people willing to fail. I've failed many times, not embarrassed to say it. Powerful people are not part of a herd. Powerful people admit mistakes and are not paralyzed. So real quickly, anybody get a good idea or 20 good ideas? Have things become a little bit more apparent? Ask yourself that. It's really important because these are things I want you to implement. I want you tonight to mirror someone and then take control after you have mirrored them, because it's actually invigorating. You know, when I had my platinum coaching group, we always had our meetings in a hotel, and after one of the meetings, all of the men and women in my group went to the bar and reported back in the morning using this in the bar. And I'm not suggesting you pick up people or anything else, but knowing how to subtly control someone really is the key to success. I've never seen anyone share this in our industry, but it is some powerful stuff. So you have some homework. Identify the 4 steps that are going to allow you to totally control your prospects. List the 3 primary ways the buyers process the information. See what type you are, okay? Listen to what your clients are listening to when they are on hold, and learn. You know what the most important seat in the boardroom is, but is that how you're set up? Is that where you sit? Fire quickly, hire slowly, okay? And, you know, fill out these forms. Go back and fill it out. Our next session is going to be another great one, session 3. And I've got a bunch of bonuses planned as well. But I'm not going to tell you about them. See, I'm going to be a little mysterious, okay? But in session 3, we're going to talk about how to stop being a one-night stand loan officer. We're going to talk about referrals, a gift that forces referrals, a group of obvious business that 99% of the loan officers don't even talk to. How to really get that accountant and attorney to promote you. We're just going to go on and on and on, very deep in this. A person who is referred to you by a previous client, you know, they're 79% more likely to use you than one that isn't. So we're going to talk deeply about that. But go back, read the slides here, get into it, start really learning about it. And I promise you, session 1, session 2, session 3 will have an enormous impact. They're game changers, folks. So thank you very, very much. Again, please implement. So I'm going to actually unmute Denise. Denise, do you have any questions?
Nope.
So Denise, share with me something you learned.
Oh boy.
Fire hose. Was this a fire hose again?
No. This was not a fire hose. Very, very familiar with everything that you've just been reviewing tonight.
Okay.
I can attest to the fact that it's very, 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 very powerful. I think the tools that you gave, if a loan officer can incorporate that into kind of evaluating their client, is a wonderful tool. Even if you kind of do it yourself as you're working with the client, because I think that's going to help you close more deals.
Yeah.
I think identifying how somebody's going to purchase or how they actually retain information is truly key to getting them committed to you.
So what one thing did you take away that you're going to implement?
You know, the truth of the matter is this is almost confirmation that what I am doing is on target.
Right.
This is a lot of how I've always done my business. I think that one thing that I, again, can attest to is the fact that, and it's also that I used to teach this type of thing, Brian.
Okay.
So what I would attest to is the fact that if you as a loan officer don't grasp the concept of understanding it's all about the customer and what the customer's needs are and selling to their needs and to their style of obtaining information so that they're comfortable, you're not going to close as many deals as that you are actually capable of.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000,000%. Did you have any questions?
No, not on tonight's session. No. I'm just, I think last week's session was really fascinating. I think this was, again, was kind of supportive. I think the biggest thing is, not really a question. It's funny, and you and I have talked about this. It's using some of this. I think that's what I got to translate in with the realtors.
Right.
And then taking away some of the things that you say is your realtors definitely cannot be your only source of business.
Correct.
But what I will attest to that all of the things we've just gone over in tonight's session, they work in everyday's life. And it just brought something back to me, Brian, that I thought about. I remember going out, like the next time you go out to buy something, when you're talking about mirroring, is mirroring the salesperson, and all of a sudden you'll notice the salesperson will catch on to that.
Yep.
Or trying to get the salesperson to use some of these techniques on you for practice. You have to practice this. If it doesn't come to you naturally, okay, you have to practice it. I think we've all had situations where you start to work with somebody and you think, wow, I wish I could be a better match for this person. I'm struggling. And I think some of your identifiers tonight will personally support and help me going kind of to that next level to maybe identifying those things sooner.
Beautiful. Because, the truth is, once you identify it, you have the power. And now you know exactly how to sell to them.
Yeah.
So, awesome. So thank you all. I appreciate everyone being here. And on to session 3. Again, the key here is to make sure that you actually are implementing what you're learning in sessions 1 and 2, and eventually what you're going to learn in 3, and the surprise bonuses coming your way as well. So thank you all, and that will conclude tonight's session.